All right, so this video is gonna be kind of a rant video because I was in the shower today and I was thinking, I was like, I kind of want to talk about this. So yeah, I literally just got out of the shower. I was thinking, I was like, it's really crazy to me how people kind of let words dictate how they feel. And like, as someone who is black and has a plethora of words that could be used against them, I feel like coming from me, you can understand like the point of view where I'm coming from a little more than someone who doesn't really have words used against them that much, and it's not saying, I'm not saying people call me that all the time, like call me words all the time. It all kind of starts with like how I grew up and where I grew up and the environment I grew up in. I didn't really grow up in an environment that was like hostile towards me, right? Like I wasn't in like a super racist neighborhood or anything, but I grew up in an area that was like very privileged. So it wasn't like anyone can make fun of you for your wealth or stature or anything like that, because everyone was literally the same level, right? So they would attack like personal things, how you dress, your race, you know what I mean? And you just had to learn how to adapt. Either you took it or you learned how to clap back and roast back and whatnot, which is personally what I did. Also, online video games where you would join a public lobby as a like 14, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid with grown adults talking about some who's the squeaker in the lobby, talking about some some crazy stuff like, oh, I could just tell you're black type stuff, you know what I mean? It still happens to this day even. But because of that, I've seen how, words don't really mean anything unless you give them a meaning, unless you give them power, Thank you. But yeah, words don't really have meaning unless you give them power. And what I mean by that is like, someone could call you a word, right? It can make you mad. It can rile you up, right? But you gotta take a step back and think, why did that make me mad? Why did I get sad because he told me that word, called me that word, you know what I mean? And like, you gotta take a step back and think like, why did that really hurt me? And I mean, obviously there's reasons why it would hurt you, like logical explanations, like, oh, the meaning behind the word, the history of the word, how they said it to you, and human nature. You're gonna get mad, you're gonna get a little angry, it's gonna hurt your feelings. But I feel like when it really comes down to it, it's just emotions, and you can find a way to essentially turn it off. Not like turn off your emotions, but turn off the way that word affects you, And this mostly comes from a part of me where I'm like, I'm a firm believer of, words like the N word and the R word and, any other hurtful words that you could possibly say to somebody. I'm a firm believer of those words only hurt people because the meaning and weight we give those words. Now, obviously, every word has a definition, and the definition of some words may not be so nice, but you gotta think. Let's take the N word, for example. Why does that word hurt so many people so much? Is it the history of the word? Is it the meaning behind the word? And you gotta think, like, where the word was used, how it was used when it first started. Even back then, you can argue that word, the N word, wasn't really what hurt people. It was a derogatory term, of course. It was a term to call you out of your name, obviously. But what was really hurting black people more back then? Being called the N word, or being hit, shot, whipped, killed, I feel like the weight behind the word has been carried from then to where, like, Back then it was like, oh, you feared the word because it means that person is willing to hurt you. But like nowadays it's like, how often does someone that calls someone the N-word actually physically try to hurt them? You know what I mean? And I mean, it does happen, right? But this is where I bring up the argument of intent. I feel like the intent behind a word dictates how you should feel about it, not the definition. If someone came up to you, for example, it was like, hey, do you want some bread? They're offering you bread. That's the intent behind the word. But if someone just says, hey, it's bread, it means they're just referring to, oh, look over there, there's bread. So the intent behind the word changes based off how you phrase it, say it, and whatnot. So if someone is just saying like, oh, hey, N-word, right? I wouldn't necessarily say there's hostile intent behind it. It's more of mockery, trying to make fun of you and whatnot. And if you just ignore it and don't let it get to you, it's like the same thing as ignoring a toddler or ignoring like an annoying person that literally just wants a reaction out of you. The moment they don't get that reaction, they're gonna be like, oh, they're gonna try other ways to get reactions out of you, and you don't give them that reaction, and they're gonna leave you alone eventually because they're not getting what they want out of you. And I genuinely feel like if, as a community, Black people, as a whole, as a people, all people, for all kinds of words, the R word, the N word, any other racial slur, any other insulting word, if us people as a whole stop giving these words so much weight, we would eventually learn that these words don't mean anything. Because I genuinely believe if we all started ignoring people who were trying to get a reaction out of you from calling you the N-word, all just started ignoring people who were trying to be racist by saying the N-word or saying these other words, you start ignoring them, stop giving that word so much weight, so much meaning, it's gonna die out. Like, it's gonna absolutely just vanish, die out. Maybe not vanish. People are still gonna say it. People are still gonna want to say it because they're gonna want to get a reaction, but they're not gonna get that reaction. Some people are just gonna keep saying it out of spite or whatever. But I genuinely feel like it'll die. Like the words weight will get dropped, and people will stop saying it because it will stop having such a. It won't have as much weight behind it, right? It's like if you just change the definition of a word, like. If you change the definition of water from something you drink, a liquid that you need to survive, to nothing, people are going to stop using the word water to refer to water. Some people still might, people that are still stuck in the past. But the majority of people aren't going to use it anymore because that's just not how it works anymore. It's going to take time, obviously. It won't happen overnight and whatnot. But like, the first step is realizing a word is just a word and it doesn't affect you, physically, at least. It could still mentally affect you, but you gotta learn how to put that aside, you know? It's like the ancient proverb, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me. And I know recently, within the past like 10 years, they try to say that proverb isn't true and words do hurt you. And to an extent they do, right? It doesn't feel good to be called words. But I really think it's possible that these words that make you feel negative emotions, you can learn to make them not make you feel negative emotions as much. Like, take me as an example. When I was very little, all I was taught was the N-word is bad. If someone says the N-word, they're racist and all that, right? So as a kid, I didn't like the N-word. Whenever I heard it, I was like, oh, this person's racist. This person wants to hurt me. This person doesn't like me and whatnot, right? And it hurt my feelings. It made me sad. It made me angry. But growing up, I would see people say the N-word, not in a aggressive way, you know, like either online or in person and whatnot. Maybe if they were just referring to a friend or something, and like I would see maybe these people aren't inherently bad or have a ill intent behind it, but they're just using the word because they want to stick out, or they want to just use it to use it, I guess, because people are like that. And I really sat back and I was like, why does this word make me so mad? And I couldn't really find an answer besides the history behind it. But I was like, I'm not a slave, so the history doesn't apply to me. The people that are saying it aren't actively trying to hurt me, so that doesn't really apply. So I was really thinking, I was like, why am I gonna let myself get all riled up because of a word people are saying that has no effect on me, you know? And it's really a strong way of thinking, because you can apply it to literally anything that's not physically hurting you. You could apply it to any word, not just the N word. You can apply it to anything that's like mentally taxing, to an extent. Obviously, you know, stress and stuff like that is still a thing, but obviously it takes time. You gotta relearn stuff. You gotta completely block stuff out of your mind and be like, oh, maybe this doesn't actually affect me as much as I thought it did, you know? But once you realize that, you start to see how maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe everyone's just overreacting, and this word doesn't really have weight behind it anymore, at least like it used to. I'm not gonna deny that in the past it probably had way more weight than it does nowadays, where people that are saying it aren't actively out to kill you. But you know, it's different if someone was like, oh hey, N-word, I'm gonna kill you, compared to someone saying, oh hey, what up my N-word? You know what I mean? It's like I said, the intent behind it. If someone has the intent to hurt me, I'm going to be like, okay, now this word has meaning behind it. But even then, is it really the word that's hurting me, or is it the action behind I'm gonna actively try to hurt you? You know what I mean? It's not really the word necessarily that I'm like, oh my gosh, what does this guy have a problem with me for? It's more of the action implied by saying I'm gonna hurt you, you know? So a word like the N-word that is derogatory and only has meaning to bring you down, there is no intent behind that word that shows active physical hurt behind it, you know? Unless someone's like actively walking towards you with a mean look, looking like they're gonna hurt you. But even though that's not the word, that's their physical appearance. Long story short, words only have meaning when you give them meaning. So stop giving these derogatory terms, these words, these random things people call you, meaning and weight. Stop letting them get to you. Stop letting them get in your head and make you think you're less of a person, or get you angry, or make you want to say bad things back. Hear them, think about it, be like, does that even really apply to me? Think, no, and move on. Because in reality, it's just not worth it. Not worth it to let it get to you. Not worth it to retaliate. It's just not worth it to even involve yourself with it in the first place. So let it go through one ear and out the other. I just hit my mic. And thank you for listening. I ranted for way too long. Ta-ta now.